Enoch's life touches heaven, judgment, hidden wisdom, and deep faith. Enoch is one of the most mysterious and spiritually intriguing figures in the entire Bible. His life is recorded in only a few verses of Scripture, yet his legacy stretches across ancient Jewish writings, early Christian teaching, prophetic visions, and apocalyptic literature that has captivated believers for thousands of years. Enoch lived in the earliest generations of humanity, only 7 generations removed from Adam. According to Genesis chapter 5, Enoch was the son of Jared and the father of Methuselah, who would become the longest living human ever recorded in the Bible, living 969 years. Unlike the other patriarchs listed in Genesis, whose lives follow a pattern of birth, long life, and death, Enoch's story breaks the pattern in a stunning way. Genesis 5:21 through 24 says that Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah, and after that Enoch walked with God for 300 years and had sons and daughters. Then Scripture says something extraordinary. Enoch walked with God and he was not, for God took him. The Bible never records Enoch's death. Instead, it says that God took him directly, making him one of only 2 people in the Bible who never experienced physical death, the other being the prophet Elijah. The phrase "walked with God" carries deep spiritual meaning. It implies intimacy, obedience, alignment, and continuous fellowship with the presence of God. Enoch's life stood out in a generation that was rapidly growing more corrupt, violent, and rebellious. He lived during a time when humanity was drifting away from God, yet Enoch remained faithful, holy, and sensitive to God's voice. Hebrews chapter 11 confirms this, saying that Enoch was taken away so that he did not see death, and that before he was taken he had this testimony, that he pleased God. This places Enoch in the great hall of faith alongside Abraham, Moses, and Noah. The New Testament also gives us another remarkable insight into Enoch's life. The book of Jude quotes a prophecy attributed directly to Enoch. Jude says that Enoch, the 7th from Adam, prophesied that the Lord would come with tens of thousands of his holy ones to execute judgment on the ungodly and convict all people of their sinful deeds and rebellious words. This shows that Enoch was not only a righteous man, but also a prophet who boldly warned his generation about coming judgment and accountability before God. Beyond the Bible, ancient Jewish writings expand Enoch's story dramatically. These writings are collectively known as the Book of Enoch, sometimes called First Enoch. Although this book is not part of the modern Protestant or Catholic Bible, it was highly respected by many ancient Jewish communities and early Christians. Fragments of the Book of Enoch were even found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, confirming that the text existed and circulated widely long before the time of Jesus. The Book of Enoch describes Enoch as being taken into the heavens and shown divine mysteries that humans were never meant to fully understand. According to these writings, Enoch was escorted by angels through multiple levels of heaven, where he witnessed the throne of God, blazing fire, crystal structures, and the dwelling places of the righteous. He was shown the movement of the sun, moon, stars, seasons, and cosmic order, suggesting that God revealed deep knowledge about creation and time. One of the most dramatic sections of the Book of Enoch describes the story of the Watchers. These were angels who rebelled against God by descending to earth, taking human wives, and producing giant offspring known as the Nephilim. These giants became violent and destructive, filling the earth with bloodshed and corruption. The fallen angels also taught humanity forbidden knowledge such as weapon-making, sorcery, astrology, cosmetics, and warfare. According to Enoch's writings, this corruption played a major role in the moral collapse of the ancient world and eventually led to the global flood in Noah's time. In these visions, Enoch is commissioned by God to act as a messenger between heaven and the fallen angels. He delivers God's judgment against them, declaring that they will be bound, imprisoned, and ultimately judged for their rebellion. Enoch also intercedes for humanity and receives prophetic revelations about the future, the coming Messiah, the final judgment, the resurrection of the righteous and the restoration of God's kingdom. The Book of Enoch contains strong messianic language that describes a mysterious figure called the Son of Man, who will sit on a throne of glory, judge kings and nations, and bring righteousness to the earth. Many scholars believe these descriptions strongly influenced later Jewish and Christian understanding of the Messiah, and align closely with how Jesus described himself in the Gospels as the Son of Man. As for how the Book of Enoch came to be, scholars believe it was written over several centuries, likely between roughly 300 years before Christ and the 1st century after Christ. It was likely composed by multiple authors who attributed their revelations to Enoch as a way of honoring his prophetic authority. The book was preserved and passed down primarily through Ethiopian Christian tradition, where it remains part of the official biblical canon to this day in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Over time, as the biblical canon was finalized in Western Christianity, the Book of Enoch was excluded not because it was considered false, but because its authorship could not be historically verified. Its theological symbolism was complex, and it was not universally accepted across all Jewish communities. However, many early church leaders referenced it, and its influence can be seen in New Testament language about angels, judgment, and spiritual warfare. Despite not being included in most Bibles today, the Book of Enoch provides valuable historical insight into how ancient believers understood the spiritual realm, divine justice, and the battle between righteousness and corruption. It should be read as supplementary material rather than equal authority to Scripture, always measured against the Bible itself. Enoch's life ultimately points to a powerful spiritual truth. A man who walked closely with God in a dark generation was so aligned with heaven that God simply took him home without tasting death. His story reminds believers that intimacy with God matters more than longevity, success, or recognition. Enoch did not build cities, lead armies, or write recorded books in the Bible, yet his walk with God impacted eternity. His testimony challenges every generation to pursue holiness, obedience, faith, and reverence for God. Enoch's life shows that God rewards those who diligently seek him, that heaven is real, that judgment is coming, and that righteousness still matters in a fallen world. His story whispers a promise that walking closely with God transforms not only how we live, but how we leave this world behind. If a man can walk with God so closely that heaven simply opens and receives him, then every believer today is invited into that same relationship of daily fellowship, faith, and obedience with the living God.